If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Wow, Thanksgiving is 10 days away? This is the fastest year ever. I'm sorry. Maybe when you get older, the days go by faster because your life kind of stays the same as opposed to doing different things when you're in high school, college, young adult, single, all that stuff. But, man, it's been an awesome year. It's also been a very fast year. And the government shutdown was part of this year, and it went on for nearly 6 weeks. I think a little bit above it, right? 45 days was the exact number, longest in history. And all I know is that Democrats only closed the government to energize voters, to have an issue on so they could win elections in Virginia, where there's a bunch of federal workers there who weren't happy about the shutdown in Northern Virginia. And then obviously the New Jersey election, New York City. Democrats wanted to show that they were fighting Donald Trump and challenging him on everything. And we got to get subsidies down for Obamacare. You know, that legislation they all supported that has only resulted in skyrocketing premiums, skyrocketing healthcare costs. This thing was always meant to fail. Let's make that very clear. They wanted this thing to collapse under its own weight so the government could put more money into it so we nationalize our healthcare system. That was the plan all along. They knew this wouldn't work. You don't get to keep your doctor. Anything the government runs is not going to run as well as the private sector. It's really that simple. So this is what they did. And here you got Van Jones, who's supposed to be like the common sense guy, I guess, over on CNN, blaming Republicans for the shutdown. Not a joke. Cut to, go.
Something has been proven here. Republicans are just not that into Americans. How much pain were the Republicans willing to let Americans suffer so they didn't have to? They're just not that into America. They were willing to let planes fall out the sky. They're willing to let children starve. They're willing to let federal workers get evicted from their houses rather than sit down and cut a deal on health care. There's a smarter, better way to do health care. And an opportunity was put forward this past 6 weeks to sit down and talk about it. Republicans didn't do it. They were willing, Donald Trump and Republicans were willing to let planes fall out the sky and children starve before they came to the table. So when Democrats get finished beating themselves up, look at the tattoo you just put on the Republican Party. They don't care about your health care.
Oh, shut the front door. Again, G-rated. Here's the thing with Van Jones, all right? 15 times Republicans and 3 Democrats voted to keep the government open through a continuing resolution of a Biden budget that they voted for, Democrats did. And this schmuck is going on CNN talking about how, Republicans aren't into America anymore. They wanted planes to fall out of the sky. You wanted that. And you would have let this go on forever, ever, if it meant political gain, people starving be damned, planes being delayed or literally falling out of the skies be damned. Democrats own this, they own it, and then some, and now they deserve the civil war that they have in that party. You want to blame Chuck Schumer? Chuck Schumer's done, dude. Chuck Schumer is 6 years old? He was probably going to retire at the end of all this anyway. And the fact now, it's we got to get rid of Schumer. That's not your problem. Your problem is, here's your starting 5, all right, to use basketball terms, as far as the socialists who are running this country right now. Let's see. It's AOC. It's Zohran Mamdani. It's Bernie Sanders. It's Jasmine Crockett. And it's Chris Murphy, who probably will be the guy who takes Chuck Schumer's place as the Senate minority leader, as if it matters. But all these people are far to the left. And when you do this, you run far to the left, and you think that this is what America wants. No, it doesn't. Doesn't want it in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina. You know, the 7 swing states that Trump won? So go ahead. Embrace all this stuff, but you have no idea exactly what you've done here. Anyway, also this week, the latest Epstein emails were released magically one day after Democrats suffered one of the worst political losses you could see in terms of caving on the government shutdown that they own, by the way, as we talked about. Now, all that said, here's what happened. They released an email talking about how Trump, quote, knew about the girls. Here's a little tip. Everybody knew about the girls. This was not a secret. That Epstein Island, the pedophilia, all that stuff. And they're trying to connect Trump somehow as part of being that whole horrific things that went on as far as Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And it's just, it's crazy because here's the thing. After Trump knew about the girls, what did he do? Did he embrace Epstein? Did he keep going back to the island if he's ever been there at all? No, of course not. He kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. How hard is this to understand? Anyway, let's let Caroline Levitt explain this again. This is cut whatever. Go.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep.
Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her.
Yep.
And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
And Democrats retracted the name of Virginia Giuffre because they said they wanted to protect the victim. There's one problem. She's dead. All right, there is no victim protection anymore. And they did it to make it look like that Trump had trafficked somehow in pedophilia. And they knew the media would run with it breathlessly without, I don't know, they have the IQ, I guess, of room temperature, or intentionally they were being biased towards Trump, again, because they think there's a story here with Epstein. There's nothing. You know why there's nothing? And I'm going to leave it here. Because the Biden administration or the Obama administration would have released anything they had on Trump and Epstein if it existed when he ran for president all those times. Right? I don't want to hear anything about this anymore. It's stupid. It is utterly stupid that this is a story. And Trump is right to be pissed. He's like, I don't want to hear about this crap anymore. I just want to fix the country that Joe Biden and Barack Obama broke. And instead, it's like, oh, the Epstein files. I'm done with it, guys. I'm done with it. No question. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with more, including Clay Travis, in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show.
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
It's It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Okay, let's bring in a A-list guest. We're going to call him Clay Travis. Of course, he is the author of the new bestseller, Balls, How Trump, Young Men, and Sports Saved America. Clay, obviously, also an Outkick founder. You see him all over Fox News as well. Clay, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. You know, I want to play this clip because I celebrate the anniversary every year. We're at the 8-year anniversary from the time that you got banned from CNN. Not talking about balls, but talking about boobs. So let's play the clip because for those who haven't heard this was probably CNN's greatest moment ever, and they didn't realize it. This is cut whatever. Go.
I think that's a bad move. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe in only two things completely: the First Amendment and boobs. And so once they made the decision that they were not going to allow a conservative, non-sports-related commentary, they couldn't do it. Hold on.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as a woman anchoring the show. Did you say, what did you just say? You believe in the First Amendment and BWBS?
Boobs. Two things that have only never let me down in this entire country's history: the First Amendment and boobs.
Yeah. Guys, why would you even say that live on national television and with a female host?
I say it live on the radio all the time because it's true, and that's what I do.
So what was the reaction after that? I know CNN wouldn't put you ever on again, Clay, but after that happened, did that elevate your career even more?
I think so. I think primarily because most people saw through how ridiculous that was. I think Brooke Baldwin felt like she was in some way playing the "I'm a woman" card. And honestly, I've used that phrase for a long time because it resonates in a way that First Amendment absolutist does not. But it also reiterates the First Amendment, right? So I have just always kind of been stunned that there are so many people out there in our line of work that are total morons, and worse than being morons, cowards. And so I think people don't expect that they're going to agree with you or me on everything. But what they want us to do is say what we authentically believe and not back down from it when there is a little bit of an uproar. So, look, if I had apologized there, then all the people who thought that was funny and kind of liked the fact that I was doing that on CNN in a First Amendment debate would have turned on me. And none of the people that ever want you to apologize actually want you to apologize, right? They don't actually care. They just want to weaken you. This idea that you're perpetually offended by things that actually aren't offensive. I think, it's been 8 years, but I think if I hadn't done what I did there, I don't think I'd be talking to you right now, and I don't think I would have the career that I have today.
I agree with that. And we're talking to Clay Travis. The book is Balls, How Trump, Young Men, and Sports Saved America. I just love on CNN that you compare Trump to Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. That's fine. But
correct.
Use the term boobs. That's a bridge too far. And the book is great. I mean, as a former sports columnist, sports producer, we both kind of come from the same world. We went from sports, and now we do a whole bunch of other stuff. You're still doing sports, obviously, but Outkick, and that's just a great, great site, just the counterweight completely to ESPN. But in the book, you say that Democrats don't have a Trump problem. They have a man problem. And Trump was just the guy to exploit it. How did he do it? When it got right down to it, Trump had balls and Democrats didn't. So to that point, Elias, my producer, can you play the Jack Schlossberg? I think that's how you pronounce her name. That's Jackie Kennedy Onassis Schlossberg. This is, I guess, let me think about this. John F. Kennedy. This is his son. So you got to listen to this because I have a feeling that he kind of has a man problem as well. This is cut whatever. Go.
Newsflash, Republicans are lying. They say that Democrats shut down the government. Not true. They did. Why? So they can protect private health insurance profit margin. The Democrats are standing up for the American people and making sure that your healthcare costs don't go up, which they will.
This administration believes that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional.
Hey JD, it's me and my new friend. I named him JD after you, his dad. JD, I'm at the Reproductive Rights Freedom Bus, and everyone here, they like reproductive freedoms, JD, but you don't. Want to hear a dirty little secret? Don't tell anyone, but Republicans are trying to take away the right to vote from millions of people.
The question was, how do you spell labor? That's H-A-R-R-I-S. Labor.
Well, this person, Jack Schlossberg, is running for Congress and wants to take Jerry Nadler's seat here in New York. And based on what we've seen here in New York, I guess he could win, but that didn't ooze exactly, the X chromosome at this point. Clay.
I think that's accurate. It's also just emblematic of the fact that Democrats really don't know what they stand for, other than abortion. And I think one of the real challenges here is they're trying to go back to things. I mean, really, their only argument for the last decade has been, Trump's going to, take away the basic democratic freedoms, and he's Hitler, as you said earlier, and it just doesn't resonate anymore. And I don't think this healthcare thing is going to resonate very well for them, because the reality is health insurance was the entire basis, basically all of Obamacare. All it did was give billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to healthcare companies. And I think if you had to pick a company that is most hated in America today, it would be healthcare insurance companies in particular. And so I think people are recognizing the gig is up, so to speak, and becoming aware that this does not make logical sense. And also, certainly, culturally, the loss of men is something that I think is going to be very hard for Democrats to come back from.
As we saw in the last election, and we're talking to Clay Travis. He, of course, is the co-host of the Clay and Buck Show, syndicated nationally. So where do you come down on this whole Epstein thing with these revelations that we're seeing this week? Because I see nothing here. I mean, all I see is that Donald Trump saw that Epstein was a bad guy and threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and he knew about the girls, and maybe that's why he wanted to stay clear of Epstein once those rumors were becoming facts. But yet, all I'm seeing on these other networks like CNN, wall-to-wall coverage of apparently the walls are closing in this time on Donald Trump for good. I just can't believe that they're running with this. So what's the Democrat strategy here?
I think it's to take away from the fact that they just had the disastrous shutdown strategy. And so they are in the position now of trying to pretend that this Epstein story has legs at all. Look, I mean, I said this early in Trump 2.0, and I think it really just kind of ends the argument in many respects. And that is, do you really think that if there was some dead to rights significant issue at play with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, that in the midst of trying to bankrupt, imprison, and drive people to try to kill President Trump, they wouldn't have deployed this at some point in time prior to now? So, I mean, I think that really kind of ends the argument that there's anything of a significant nature happening here.
Obama had access to it when he was president, all these documents. Biden, the same thing. They would have used this in 2016, 2020, or 2024. So there is no smoking gun because, as we know, it definitely would have happened by now. We only got about 30 seconds left, Clay. But what's one thing people are going to learn in the book, Balls, how Trump young men in sports saved America? What's one thing they're going to learn maybe about you or about just the theme in general that they may not know before?
Well, look, I mean, I think the loss of young men and their desire to go and find, some sort of meaning in life, candidly, on the internet is a huge part of the manosphere. But I also think 2028 is going to be about young women because I think they are increasingly being spoken to as if abortion is the only issue that's on the table. Yeah. The reality is Roe v. Wade got overturned, Joe, and I'm sure you saw this data, but the number of abortions hasn't changed. Exactly. So what happens when you're selling this, Handmaid's Tale to young women, and many of them are starting to become aware that's not true? I kind of dive into it a lot in the book as well.
Well, that's great to hear. And again, Balls, How Trump, Young Men in Sports Saved America. It is a bestseller. He is Clay Travis. Clay, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, brother.
All right, he's the man. All right, this is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Okay, everybody, let's bring in a very special guest. She became my colleague not too long ago, signed with Fox News. About time. She is now the author of The Two FBIs, came out just on Tuesday, already knocking it out of the park as far as the charts. The reviews are excellent. Nicole, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me, Joe.
Of course. So you're a former special agent, FBI, and it took a lot of guts to do what you've done as far as going on Fox and other outlets and talking about the rot that is within the FBI. I mean, we think of the names of Comey and Page and Strzok and McCabe, obviously, who was signed by CNN about 5 minutes after he was fired for leaking to the press and lying about it. So what made you ultimately write this book? Is it about transparency and just getting the word out that even though we now have a Kash Patel running the FBI and Dan Bongino is his number two, that there's still a long way to go as far as reforming this agency?
You're exactly right. So just a little bit of background on the book. I was a witness to the 9/11 terrorist attacks in New York City. I was working for Merrill Lynch at the time.
Oh, wow.
And the book starts with, that's really what my motivation was. And I think to understand why what was happening at the FBI was so disturbing to me, you have to understand who I am and what my character was, literally going back to how I was raised and morals and knowing right between wrong and having integrity. So I kind of give a little bit of background on that. And then I go through the decision that I made to eventually apply to the FBI. It was because of witnessing the 9/11 terrorist attacks. There was a moment in the elevator when I was leaving the World Financial Center where I literally had an epiphany, and it was literally, I think, from God saying, look, if you get out of here one day, you need to give back and serve your country and stand as a witness of God. And that I never lost. And so I did. I had a successful career in finance. I worked here in New York and, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America Securities, doing prime brokerage. I went on to work for a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund in Beverly Hills. But there was something still missing. And I had a conversation with my father and with a prior colleague from Wall Street. And it was the prior colleague that said, have you ever considered applying to the FBI? And again, this is around the time of the subprime mortgage meltdown. So he thought it would be incredible if I could go into these, different financial firms and go in undercover and crack things up. And so I thought, I have never thought of the FBI. I don't come from a law enforcement family, but I have such tremendous amount of respect for law enforcement and for the military. And this could be a good way to keep that vow that I made to myself and to God on that elevator on 9/11. I went through the application process. Thankfully, I made it through. Pretty much at record speed. I was accepted into the FBI within about 7 to 8 months. I reported to Quantico in Quantico, Virginia, at the Marine Corps base. The training was intense. I talk about that in the book. Believe it or not, the top questions I still get to this day are, what made you apply? What was the application process like? And what was the training? And so I go into depth of what it was like, because it was a lot to become an FBI agent. It's a lot of sacrifice. I gave up a career in finance, but I did it because I love this country. So I started off at the FBI Miami, an incredible division, working violent crime. I started in white collar. I transferred over to violent crime. Imagine, Miami, you're running and gunning, as we call it, day in, day out, day in, day out. It was a lot of work. It was heavy. It was dark. I talk about how my faith carried me through some very dark times, but it was because I loved what I was doing and that I felt I was making an impactful difference, that I loved my job. I loved the mission I was on, and I kept going. And that is the work that I refer to in my book as FBI 1. the solid individuals that I worked with who just came to uphold the Constitution, protect Americans, and serve the people, help victims, and that's what we're supposed to do. But, Joe, with time, FBI 2 came creeping in, and that's what I refer to as the political weaponization, the social justice warrior hacks that completely destroyed the agency that I once loved.
Wow. The book is called The Two FBIs, The Bravery and Betrayal I Saw in My Time at the Bureau. Tell me what it was like, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, because I had a Jersey Shore beach house that we would rent it out, and we'd bring in a whole bunch of different people. And I felt like half my house worked at Merrill Lynch, probably at the same time you were there. And I could just never picture these folks, men and women, making the jump that you did, as you said, to FBI and violent crimes, and especially going through the training. What was it like getting through Quantico? Because I can imagine that's not something that you could go to the gym after work, at Merrill, but nothing can prepare you for this physically. Tell us what that was like.
It's not even in the same realm. I think sometimes ignorance is bliss, and I talk about that in the book. If I'd known what I was getting myself into in many of these situations, I never would have done it, but I'm probably good that I didn't know, because I lived fearlessly. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, why not? I'll try. My life wasn't what I expected it to be. I thought I'd go to college, get married, have children, or, get married, have children, have a beautiful family. That's not what worked out for me. God had a different path. And so you're right. I walked into the academy, and, they're looking at me, and I know you can't tell based on the radio appearance, but blonde hair, blue-eyed, female, I love my stilettos. It is what it is. But they looked at me and they thought, oh, that's the hedge fund girl. I had to constantly prove I am here, I am qualified, I am not, some dumb blonde per se. And I say this in all humility, but my editor wanted to make sure it was in the book. Phase 2 of the FBI testing in order to get into the FBI is a panel with 3 FBI special agents, and it's a 1-hour discussion. You have to answer 13 questions. It's recorded. They scored the scores for that. In addition, there's a writing sample that you have to do with a fake investigation. One of the panelists later on told me he's been doing it for over 20 years, and he said that he could count on one hand how many individuals got a perfect score on phase 2, and I was one of them. And so coming into the FBI as a female, those DEI initiatives that I think are absolutely ridiculous, no one should get a job because they're a female. No one should get a job based on their race or their gender. I mean, it's ridiculous. But because of those ridiculous things that were put out into the FBI, I was constantly having to prove I am not that. So when I got to the training at Quantico, it runs the gamut. You've got legal training, interview and interrogation, behavioral analysis, practical applications unit, firearms, you name it, tactical driving. Like, it's a whole range, and I go into detail in the book. And I'll tell you right now, I'm from Texas. I am a very big believer in the Second Amendment, but I wasn't raised with guns in my home. My dad and mother, they had nothing against it. They just weren't firearms people. And I struggled with firearms at Quantico. I'd always loved to shoot for fun. But, Joe, it's very different when you've got a firearms instructor who's a former, Marine screaming at you and yelling at you, trying to break you down. And that's the right thing to do, because you know what? If you can't hack it, you shouldn't be there. Because if you're going to have the gun, the badge, and the credentials, you've got to be tough. And in my defensive tactics, the instructor said, Nicole, and taught the whole class, his motto was, I am going to train you to be warriors. I'm going to train you that if you have to, you can literally take someone's life with your bare hands. And the motto that he lived by was, what's the worst thing that could happen? You could die. And that's how we were taught. And that's how that's what we were doing. And so I'm telling you, that's the FBI 1 that we used to be proud of. Could I tell you that that's how the Quantico training has been in the last 4 years under the Biden administration with all these DEI requirements? Absolutely not. And I talk about in the book how they took out certain training things that I was subjected to. They just took them out of the training altogether because people couldn't hack it. Well, if you couldn't hack it, you probably shouldn't be an FBI agent. And so I talk about the deterioration of the agency because of it wasn't just the political weaponization, which was absolutely horrific, but it was also the social justice warrior movement. I mean, you can't have weak agents who are expected to protect Americans. It doesn't work that way.
Certainly not, and I have a feeling things have changed now that we have the aforementioned Kash Patel, Dan Bongino running the show. Unfortunately, Nicole, we do have to run, but again, I want to tell everybody, please do buy this book. It is gripping, and it's all real, and it gives you, as Nicole described it, FBI 1 and FBI 2. And again, the rank and file, these guys that go out there and put their lives on the line, like Nicole described, they deserved all the praise. It was those schmucks at the top that ruined everything for everybody. Fortunately, elections have consequences, and we have new leadership over there. The two FBIs, the bravery and betrayal I saw in my time at the Bureau. Nicole Parker, thanks so much. I will see you in a green room soon, I hope over at Fox News.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
God bless you, too. And we'll be back with the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show.
That's my worst ever Kennedy invitation. Say chowda. But the reason why I'm going the Kennedy route, and obviously I wasn't around for John F. Kennedy, but I do know how to read. And he had something like a 70% approval rating when he was in office, obviously tragically cut short 3 years into his first term. But boy, I mean, you read about the things that he did as far as beefing up the military, cutting taxes like we have never seen before, Republican or Democrat. And he did so in a recession, which was smart. And then obviously he was somebody who did not believe in affirmative action in terms of he supported merit-based types of programs. Wow, sounds like a Republican. MAGA, basically, was John F. Kennedy. Well, he's got a grandson now, and I like John F. Kennedy Jr. as well. I just like the fact he went into more media and publishing, and people forget that John F. Kennedy once worked for a newspaper, like he was a writer before and a reporter before he was a congressman, and then eventually the president of the United States. But Jack Schlossberg, well, this guy is interesting, we'll put it that way. I mean, there is no way in hell that this kid is related to any Kennedy. I mean, there's just, you will not recognize this voice, but now he wants to run for Congress for Jerry Nadler's seat in New York. Listen to this kid, because again, no way this guy's related to John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This has to be an adoption. That's my only explanation. Cut 8, go.
Newsflash, Republicans are lying.
Oh.
They say that Democrats shut down the government. Not true. They did. Why? So they can protect private health insurance profit margin. The Democrats are standing up for the American people and making sure that your healthcare costs don't go up, which they will.
This administration believes that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional.
Want to hear a dirty little secret? Don't tell anyone, but Republicans are trying to take away the right to vote from millions of people.
Owie, my hair hurts. No, can't be a Kennedy. I'm just not buying it. But he's going to run for Nadler's seat. And if Zohran Mamdani could get elected in New York, well, the Schlossberg kid, I guess maybe he could as well. But you know who I want to run for office here in the New York, New Jersey area? Whoever this Florida sheriff is, who just put out a stark warning to any far-left Antifa folks who dare to try to do things in the state like, I don't know, vandalize businesses, or if a conservative comes to a conservative campus, actually do what we saw at UC Berkeley this week in terms of attacking Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk supporters, because he says, if you go down this road where you think that you could actually even think about touching a federal officer or one of my officers, you're going to get the following. This is cut 9, go.
If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at.
Oh, God.
Because we will kill you graveyard dead.
We will kill you, graveyard dead. Please. I mean, Jessica Tisch I like, and I'm glad that Memdani is going to keep her on for now. I'm sure that once Memdani is and puts out the whole order of, hey, don't work with ICE agents, and hey, let's get some social workers up to that high crime area, I'm sure that will probably change things. But, I mean, this is like the best ever. And we need someone like this as far as law enforcement. Like, zero tolerance. None whatsoever. And I think that we'll all be safe the way we were under Rudy Giuliani and Michael Bloomberg to extend that. Anyway, Ariana Grande back in the news. I knew I'd be talking about this. So remember when we had that Snow White remake come out earlier this year, and Rachel Zegler, the actress in it, decides to go all, far, far left MSNBC by, saying free Palestine and F Trump. And I mean, just all the things that you don't want to say ahead of a huge movie premiere, because you might alienate half the country when you go down that road. Ask Stephen Colbert, ask Jimmy Kimmel, and them losing $40 million a year by doing so. Anyway, Ariana Grande is the star of the Wicked movies that my daughter quite liked. But now I don't know if I want to go see this, because apparently she's saying that Oz, where Dorothy flies over the rainbow and then lands in Oz, and then they meet the Munchkins. And, well, apparently that's really just kind of like San Francisco. No, really. Cut 3. Go.
We love you, we love you, we love you. And Oz has always been a queer place, a safe place for queer people, for every different color of the rainbow, for everybody. Read the L. Frank Baum books. It's the truth. You're safe with us. We love you so much.
Oh, boy.
The gayer, the better.
The gayer, the better. Now, look, I don't have anything against gay people. I think we passed that exit a long time ago. Whoever you're sleeping with, whatever your sexual orientation is, I really don't give a crap. All right? Because I don't talk about who I'm sleeping with. Well, actually, it's kind of boring. It's been the same girl for, the past 15 years. But the point is that no one wants to hear this stuff anymore and have it shoved down their throat. And no, Oz is not the gayest place on earth. The rainbow is the rainbow that Dorothy flew over. It has nothing to do with gay pride. But sure enough, that's where this movie is headed. And I have a feeling that some folks are going to do the same thing to this that they did to Snow White. And that's not what you want to do. I swear, these movie producers, like the people in charge of the studios, do not let these people promote the movie. Don't worry about it. Just put out a bunch of commercials and have them do interviews. Or if they even go remotely political in any way, shape, or form, there's something in the contract that says, no, you're now not going to get this bonus or this incentive. I don't know what the solution is. Anyway, have you heard of this little, I almost said it, human broomstick? Okay, we'll keep it G-rated. Harry Sisson. This is a kid, 23 years old. He's hired by Democrats to be an influencer on social media and has the dumbest takes you will hear in anywhere. And that's saying a lot, considering like Joy Reid is still out there, or Jim Acosta or Don Lemon. Anyway, here is Sisson on a podcast going after J.D. Vance. This kid who's never worked a real job in his little life is calling J.D. Vance the L word. Seriously, cut 4, go.
J.D. Vance is such a loser. He is such a loser. He's one of those insecure men I just described earlier. And I think, Jennifer, you described him as like, a failed drag queen. It's what he always wanted. And then he had to write the book and, pretend to be that. And then now he's vice president. It's what he always wanted. He is such a loser. He's an insecure man. He doesn't have a job. All he does at the White House is troll. He went after me on Twitter.
Ooh. The victim, Harry Sisson. Let's see, J.D. Vance. This is how you define a loser, apparently. You grow up in a broken home in Appalachia. Your mother is a drug addict who goes through multiple men. It's a completely horrific place. And then you're mature enough at 18 years old to go sign up for the friggin' Marines. And after that, you say, you know what? I think I want to go to college now. And you go to Ohio State, except you graduate in 2.5 years. 2.5 years. That means you basically took twice as many courses as the average student there in order to get out that quickly. Amazing. Then he gets to the Yale Law Review, doesn't go out and make $1 billion being a high-priced lawyer. Oh, no. He decides to write the aforementioned book, which becomes a bestseller, which then is picked up by Ron Howard, and a movie is made about his life starring Glenn Close and others. Great movie if you've not seen Hillbilly Elegy before. And then, after that, he says, you know what, I think I want to run for Senate now of Ohio, wins that race easily, and then becomes vice president of the United States before the age of 40. And he'll probably be the next president of the United States Marco Rubio isn't going to run against him. Rubio will be the number 2, and any other Republican that runs against J.D. Vance, it's going to be like Donald Trump all over again with DeSantis and Nikki Haley. As far as once MAGA is behind a candidate, you're not beating that candidate. But that's who Harry Sisson calls a loser. Take 2 seats, pal. Anyway, let's go to one more here, shall we? And this is going to be John Fetterman, after Sonny Hostin lectures him on how could you vote to reopen the government? You should be fighting. Well, Fetterman was not having it. This is Cut 5. Go.
I don't need a lecture from whether it's Bernie or the governor in California, because they are representing very deep blue kinds of populations. And a lot of those things were part of the extreme. And now remember, what really needs to win, the big win, is involving my state and other states and those things. And why have we arrived here after the election a year ago? We got to forget some of the things that cost us that election.
Exactly. If you're from a blue state like California, or you're Bernie Sanders and you're from a blue state like Vermont or AOC in New York, you could scream and yell about resistance and shutting down the government. They would have shut down the government for 120 days if they could have, or longer. It wouldn't have mattered how many planes fell out of the sky, how many people were not eating. They would have done it just for political gain to show that they're fighting. But Fetterman, he's in a purple state. And when you're in a purple state, which was won by Donald Trump twice, you can't afford just to go far to the left and not try to actually govern. Anyway, I am Joe Concha. This was the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Thanks to Nicole Parker and to Clay Travis. We'll see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. Bye-bye.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.